Welcome to Safe and Sound, sponsored by White Mountain Fire and Life Safety. I am Kirk Webb, your host, and today on this show we have Joel Weiss and Nancy Huser, both from Arizona Game and Fish, and we're going to talk about water safety and ATV, UTV safety. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Give me a little bit of kind of background of what your job is and kind of what Arizona Game and Fish, what do they do?
Right, so I'm Nancy Huser, and I am the off-highway vehicle officer in Region 1, and my duties are to go out and make sure that everybody's being safe while they're operating their off-highway vehicles, which are UTVs, ATVs, and motorcycles.
Nice. And so how big is Region 1 when you say that? How many regions are there total in Arizona?
There's 6 regions in Arizona. Region 1 covers, from Morenci all the way up to Adamana on I-40, all the way over to Winslow, actually, and then all the way over to the rim towards Payson.
So it's a pretty good sized area.
It's a very big chunk, yes.
So it crosses more than just Forest Service boundaries and everything else. It takes in a large area.
Yeah, we're kind of surrounded by New Mexico, Navajo Reservation, White Mountain Apache Reservation, and then starting over by Winslow to be the Coconino side.
And within that area, there's a lot of roads that are not paved.
Correct, yes.
So your job is pretty immense and intense.
It is,
times.
It is, exactly. And there's just lots of different rules and regulations that we have to make sure that people are being safe while they're out operating. And even when you think it's a dirt road, it still requires different things as far as being street legal and everything. You have to have license, insurance, registration, things like that, and proper equipment.
Nice. And Joel, give me a little bit of background of what it is that you do with Game and Fish.
I'm Joel Weiss. I'm what's considered a wildlife manager. About 50% of my time is spent on law enforcement, and the other 50% is like biology, managing the wildlife and fisheries. And
so you're looking at a wide variety of things as well, not only doing some law enforcement like you said. Now what type of law enforcement work are you doing? Are you doing the same like Nancy, or is it a little bit different?
It's a little bit different. Game and Fish is primarily in charge of enforcing watercraft laws, game and fish, hunting and fishing laws and regulations, and of course the OHV. I do cross over into her area on the OHV stuff.
And does your area also cover that Region 1 as well? Is that
wildlife managers have districts?
Okay.
So we have basically, there's Unit 1 broken into east and west sector for our wildlife managers. Unit 27 has North and South wildlife managers. I'm the wildlife manager for Units 2A, B, and C, which is kind of the St. John's area. And then we got the west side, 4A, 4B, 3A, 3B, 3C.
Nice. And so you do a wide variety of, because hunting kind of happens all year round, doesn't it?
It does anymore.
And I mean, so you take in all the different types of wildlife, and you're in charge of making sure that everybody's staying within their scope of what their license tells them to do, right?
That is correct. Hunting on the correct units and using the correct weapons. And
so that can be, I would think that's kind of could be overwhelming at times. Are you doing this all by yourself? You got other partners that you work with?
Basically, we're split in the east side, west sector, east sector, and we have 5 officers and a field supervisor, plus an OHV officer on the east side and west side. And
nice.
We're considered east side because we're doing the Springerville, St. John's area.
Because being a large area like that, try to do that by yourself would probably be not very doable, would it be?
Man, we get pretty spread out sometimes.
and then you can also help each other out when you got certain situations where you need more law enforcement. Or
yes. Yeah.
And do you guys work with other agencies?
We do Apache County and Navajo County and St. John's PD and Springerville and Eager PDs.
Excellent.
Forest Service. Yes.
And I know on the public education side, I've been working with Nancy for quite some time, going into the schools and different things like that. And it's nice having that relationship to be able to, because one of the things that personally I like with my job is being able to educate. And that's kind of what we're here for today. And so let's kind of get right into your little bit of expertise with the water safety stuff. When we're looking at what are some of the things that you find most often that people may be not complying with, or maybe they don't even? Do you find that they maybe don't even understand what the law might be?
Yeah, most of them have an idea of what they're supposed to be doing. They sometimes just don't feel like following it.
Right. And I think overall, I know as a parent, I want my kids and grandkids to be safe, but I honestly, because I'm one of those guys, I can't swim. So, am I going to be out on the water? Probably not. But I have been out on a boat at times, and I can, younger, I didn't wear a life jacket, or maybe the life jacket I wore, I didn't really know. So what are some of the specifics about a life safety? In fact, what's the proper terminology for?
Nowadays, they don't call them life jackets. They've gone away from that, and they call them personal flotation devices, or PFDs.
Nice. So, and that's good to understand the proper terminology when you're dealing with all of these things. So personal flotation device.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that we need to make sure that one of these devices, so are all of these that we have in front of us, are they proper?
They're required to be Coast Guard approved, and each one of those jackets will have a Coast Guard stamp inside of them.
So what is that? Let's look at one of those. Let's pull one up and let's look at what that stamp's going to look like.
There's different ways, because on this one, it says U.S. Coast Guard approved in large letters.
So that USCG.
And on some of these other ones, there'll be a round stamp.
Okay.
Say, U.S. Coast Guard around that.
Nice.
But that's the obvious one there.
So when somebody's going to the store, because do every store that around, and a lot of people do shopping online, are they going to be able to see that on the product that they're purchasing?
If they go to the store, then they can pick it up, try it on, open it up, see if it has all this information on the inside, size and Coast Guard approved. Online, right. It could be a little questionable. You don't know where they're coming from for sure.
Right.
Where they're made.
And it may not have that stamp that we're looking for.
So if you do order it and it does not have Coast Guard approved, it's something you may want to just send back and try to get something else.
Because somebody's life could potentially be at stake with using the wrong devices.
The wrong device or wrong size as well.
Right. So when we talk about size, and I know we're going to get some of kids involved in, and so there are going to be some clips, because if you don't want to get a large person's PFD, personal flotation device, on a small child.
Yes, and I have seen that on boats. It's like, well, they got a life jacket. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't count because it doesn't fit.
Right. So what are some of the things that to fit properly?
Basically, need to be snug, fit snug.
Okay. Because you look at this one, and it's built much differently than the one that you have in your hand.
That's the very basic, least expensive one you can buy.
Okay.
Just put it over your neck, and you can pull that strap. You can pull it tight, so it's tight against your body.
Okay.
Once you put it on.
So very simple, but they do work.
Yes.
Sorta.
Right?
And this will go behind your back too, so it's kind of confusing how you're looking. There you go.
So it comes around you. This goes over your head.
Correct.
And then it straps around your body.
Pull that strap tight.
Snug it up. Okay.
Because you want it to stay tight. Because if it's not, it's going to float up in front of you.
Right.
And you're going to kind of slide out. So you want to pull it tight. And with those, you kind of get a hold of them. You can hang on to them and hold them in place.
So it might be a little uncomfortable.
A little bit.
But being alive and uncomfortable is a little better than not alive and loose and it feels better this way, right? Yeah. So this one that you have, describe this one a little bit better.
This one's a toddler's jacket. So we can get these on. You want to make sure they fit tight. You snug them up. And the thing about this is with little kids, it has a strap that goes down between their legs. You can tighten that up, and that holds them in to these jackets. And
I like that. Yeah. That looks kind of like what we have built into our turnout jackets, where a rescue strap.
Yes,
so that way you can grab a hold of that.
Child falls off a dock or into the water off a boat, parent or anybody can just grab it.
Right, and then the vest actually. Now these are not sized per age, are they? Because they're sized more according to our weight, right?
Yes, this one's considered a child. opened up here. So it's got, you know, all the information, the Coast Guard approval, and big letter says child. And they have different weight ratings on them. Most of the ones for younger, like for children and youth, go up to 90 pounds. Then after 90 pounds, you're starting to wear the adult smalls, and as you get bigger, of course, you go up through that.
The adult extra large for me, yeah.
And once they get into the adults, they just say large, extra large. They don't go by weight rating, just what fits you.
And like you said, with all of them, they still need to fit snug, and you don't want them to where they can just slide right off of your body.
And none of these work if you don't wear them.
What are some of the basic laws, according to the state of Arizona, with having to wear a PFD?
For every person on a watercraft, there must be one wearable life jacket in good condition that fits them. So if you got 6 people on the boat, you're going to have 6 PFDs that properly fit each individual for their size.
Okay.
And then kids 12 years and younger have to wear them while the boat is in motion. So if they're anchored, they can take them off. Best that they leave them on, but you can take them off if you're anchored.
But our recommendation, or your recommendation is everybody wear them all the time as soon as they get on the boat, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, because I mean, we've had drownings a few feet offshore.
Every year we have a drowning up here.
Yeah, and it's scary, and people don't really think about that. Oh, well, these are just simple mountain lakes. We're not going to have anybody, but it happens.
What happens up here, mountain lakes, the water's cold.
Right.
People fall in, they gasp, they suck in water. Now they panic.
Right.
And it's pretty much over at that point.
And
they don't have that jacket on to lift them back to the surface.
Right. And sometimes finding a body recovery is not a fun thing to go through.
It is not a fun thing. We help out with Apache County and Navajo County searching to recover bodies. Yeah.
Well, and kind of switching gears a little bit, Nancy, when we get into ATV, UTV, do we want to define what the all-terrain vehicle and what's the UTV stand for?
Right. So a utility type vehicle is what UTV stands for. And that's what that really is a vehicle you sit in like a car. They're side by side. Some have 3 seats, a bench seat, let's say, in the front, or they're 4-seaters where they have 4 seats in them. They're getting bigger and faster, the machines, as you'll see out in the field. And those, so you have the UTV, then you have the all-terrain vehicle, the ATV, which is one you sit on and straddle like a motorcycle. And then, of course, you have the dirt bike motorcycle idea. Okay. So, and the requirements for those is if you're under 18 years of age, you have to have a helmet on. And it can't just be like a bicycle helmet.
So here we got our nice little, now these are designed, they're very lightweight, but like you say, they're designed for a bicycle.
Yeah, very comfortable, I'm sure, to be wearing and on a bicycle. But when you think about how much a bicycle weighs, maybe 25, 30, 40 pounds is a bicycle. So if you fall down and your bike lands on your head, that helmet right there will protect you. It's just soft, it's foam. It's hard foam, but enough that's only going to protect you for a bicycle.
Correct. And the fall is less significant. The speeds are less.
Exactly.
The impact, all of that is much less. So that's why these are appropriate for that type of vehicle.
Exactly.
But then now we get into even motorcycles. Do you regulate motorcycles and quads and so anything as soon as it's got a motor and it's out on the
if it's a motor made for off-highway use, manufactured for off-highway use, and is under 2,500 pounds, then we're regulating those. We regulate vehicles, also trucks, Jeeps, whatever else, depending on what their activity is out in the the woods where we're working and stuff. But so if you're on the OHV, the off-highway vehicle. Those things weigh, we're talking 2,500 pounds or less.
They're getting as big as cars these days.
They are. And an ATV, just a single ATV is, 500, 600, 700 pounds.
Right.
So if that rolls on you, the helmets are made, but you have to get the specific type of helmet. If you just pick up, like I said, the bicycle helmets, that's not good. What you want to look for when you're buying a helmet is look on the back, and it has that secret word I always tell the kids when we're teaching, Safety Village, is the word DOT. Look on the back of the helmet, DOT, Department of Transportation. And that's going to tell you that that helmet is made to protect your head in case of a rollover accident or falling out of a machine, okay? So, and they come in various sizes. I mean, it's not one size fits all, just like the life jackets we were talking about, you know, it goes by weight and stuff. Well, same with the helmets. You've got to pick the helmet that's going to fit your head right. This particular helmet here is made for a youth. This is a child's helmet. My 6-year-old grandson wears this helmet. So when people tell me, oh, I can't find a helmet that's going to fit my kid, this is a medium, a youth medium. So, and this was purchased at Walmart. So I'm just saying you don't have to go to, you know, very expensive places. I mean, helmets and kids' heads grow fast. Helmets don't, but the kids' heads grow fast. So make sure you get the right one. Of course, again, dot written on the back. So.
And all kinds of cool designs these days.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a cool helmet. Kids like to wear it. It's exciting. So some kids might get, you know, anxious too, and adults, and maybe they don't want a full face helmet like this is. So we also have open face helmets. So we don't, but they sell open face helmets. Again, it's just open face. It's got the chin strap. Again, it has my secret word on the back, dot, okay, for your safety. And that gives you a lot more vision maybe when you're riding. These are a little more confining looking, but they all work as long as they have the proper wording on the back. If you're driving, you have to have eye protection. Your eye protection is your goggles. Your eye protection could be your sunglasses. It could be your glasses.
Just
you have eye
something
protection
that
on.
protects your eyes.
Keeps your eyes in case of debris that flies up. And it may be not from your own machine. It could be a vehicle driving by you, and they dust you out, and then that's what happens. You need to have eye protection to make sure you can see the road so you don't have an accident.
Yeah, because some of the vehicles designed for off-road, they're coming, they got full glass and everything, so you're fairly well protected at that point, but not all of them. Most of them are actually open.
Yeah, you brought it a good point, though. So if you're driving, say, a machine that has a windshield on it, then that is your eye protection. You don't necessarily have to have any extra eye protection on at all. But I've noticed a lot of people out cruising around, even with the windshield on, will be wearing goggles just because it sucks to their face and keeps the dust from getting underneath the glasses and stuff.
Because that windshield just protects it from just the direct oncoming, those bugs the bugs in the teeth, thing. But it swirls around and then it comes right back in, and so. Yeah, so it's still a good idea to have that extra eye protection.
And the laws state that you have to have, the driver has to have eye protection. So if you're a passenger, you're on your own type of thing. And I prefer kids to even have goggles on just to protect their eyes, because they're little and they are looking around all the time. And
we don't.
You never know.
And taking care of your eyes is important. When I can't imagine. We some of the drills we do as firefighters, we black out our masks, our goggles, and do search and rescue type drills, and that's kind of a scary feeling, So going from, you got to take care of your eyes. It doesn't take much to become blind from some oncoming object from another vehicle or whatever the case might be. And now you kind of have to follow forest regulations. So that time of year, when we get into the summertime, there's a possibility we go into restrictions and fire restrictions, and so you guys are kind of monitoring all of that kind of stuff and helping each of the agencies out, and because I think as first responders, we don't want to see our forest burn up. We don't want to see people getting hurt. What are some of the dangers that you see that you're constantly having to remind that what do we need to educate our viewing audience with? Things that causes most accidents, and I don't even really like using the word accident. I like the word crash.
There you go.
So
speed.
I was gonna say speed is a big one.
And granted, that was one of the reasons I became a firefighter is. But then after I became that, driving 300 miles an hour with lights and sirens is not a safe thing to do. Right. And they teach us that, no, we got to be reasonable. Exactly. And same thing for people out in the forest. I mean, how easy is it to lose control?
It's very easy, actually, because you're not driving on pavement out there when you're in the woods, right? You're driving on dirt roads that have sharp drop-off edges on some of them, and debris, the dust, the rocks that are flying, and it may not just be you. You may be putting around just being responsible, and then the truck or whatever goes by you, or another off-highway vehicle that brings the dust up and stuff like that. And all it just takes is a little bit to get off the road, and those things, they're not the most stablest machines out there. I mean, they're just off-highway vehicles. They're made to go do cool stuff and everything, but easily to tip.
Yeah, like I say, they're designed to adapt to the terrain.
Pretty much.
Hence the name.
Yes, but at the same time,
at slow speeds.
at controlled speeds. I'll say controlled speeds to make it simpler, I guess.
Right. Because, I mean, a lot of our roads have a lot of blind curves.
Blind curves.
And if you got people coming from opposite direction, high rates of speed, there's no time. And like you say, drop-offs, we got a lot of drop-offs. There's a lot of dangers out there.
Oh, you got rocks, you got down trees. I mean, like we were discussing the winds earlier, it's very windy up here. And of course, we did have a large wildfire, a couple of them up in our region, matter of fact, the Wallow and the Rodeo Chetasky.
Right.
So there's a lot of fallen trees that'll just fall. And at one day it was clear, and the next day there's a tree in the way, and you come around that curve if you're not expecting it. So that's why I say controlled driving.
Right.
And there is speed limits out there, so it's just one of those things where you got to be responsible. It's easy to do reckless driving on an off-highway vehicle. Very easy.
Right. And like you say, you may know the area very well, but it can change. With those trees that are dead standing, and now all of a sudden now they're across the road and they weren't there yesterday.
Yep.
Or whatever the case might be. Animals. We got wildlife that they don't mind. They cross roads wherever they want, right?
Pretty much.
and so they're not like cattle where we herd them and keep them in certain areas and I know I used to call the cattle a slow elk, because they don't move as much and as rapidly as the wildlife do, and they can become a hazard and all those different things. There's lots of I don't know if you even want to use the term landmines.
There you go.
But I think that might be a good way to describe it, because there's lots of things out there that can change in a hurry. The weather, how often does the weather change? And does that make a difference on the safety of driving these types of vehicles out there?
Oh, most definitely. People think if it's starting to rain or starting to pour, they got to drive faster to get back to their vehicle to load up or whatever. And there's been accidents because of just that activity. Right. Sharp curves, unfamiliar, and wet rain coming. If you're wearing your goggles and your helmet right, well, you're going to have rain. There's no windshield wiper on your goggles, especially if you're on an ATV. And most UTVs don't have windshield wipers. So, right. And with our monsoon seasons, coming in the end of June, July, you just never know when they're going to pop up. You expect them every day. Just win during that day.
And kind of even talking along the weather, lightning. Yeah. I know the White Mountains, we're nationwide. I think we're one of the areas that gets a huge amount of lightning strikes. When we're talking about boating safety, what's your recommendations on people that are out on the water and it starts to, you see a storm coming in?
It's just get off the water.
Right, because if you're out there in the middle of the lake and lightning decides to start, you become that attractant for that lightning.
You're the high point.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you mentioned the wipers on the goggles, we don't have those, and if you go to wipe it off, does it make it even worse?
Makes it mud.
Well, not only that, but now you're taking your hand off the wheel or the handlebars, and that's steering.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Correct.
So if it starts raining and pouring, is it probably a better idea to maybe just pull off and wait it out? In a lot of cases?
Definitely, yes.
And the whole purpose of being able to have the open forest and to be able to go camping and hunting and fishing, as citizens, we need to be cognizant of everything that's out there, minding our safety, the safety of others, the health and safety of the wildlife. And I recently saw a bunch of pictures that our Apache Sitgraves Forest Service posted where people going camping and they just left gobs of trash. Didn't clean up their campsites. Do you guys come across this quite often as well?
Yes, we do.
And it's senseless. It's like if you brought it in, well, I think you might have the same space to be able to take it back out with you. The Forest Service has actually been pretty generous in providing some dumpsters, but if the dumpster's full, take it back with you. Don't just leave it in a big, huge pile that, because one, that attracts the wildlife.
Right.
In fact, I saw one post where a bear had to be put down because it kept getting into that easy food and now became a threat to people going camping and trying to enjoy the outdoors. So I know we talked about a whole lot of things on the show today. Water safety, making sure that you have the U.S. Coast Guard approved stamp or at least spelled out on there. So if you're buying online, make sure you're finding that. If not, send it back. Get the right proper flotation device for your size of person. Kids and anybody under the age of 12 has to be wearing it. 12 and under. And anytime that's in motion and recommended, it's like anybody out there on the water, just put them on.
People need to remember that paddleboards need them, kayaks need them.
Good point.
The popular personal pontoon fly fishermen use, they need a life jacket. All the way on up to sailboats, big boats.
So nothing doesn't matter whether it has a motor or not. No. Anything out on the water.
Pretty much anything on the water.
Nice.
Fred Flintstone log, you can float that if you want, but if it's man-made to be on the water, take a jacket.
There you go.
PFD with you.
And staying safe as we're out there on the roads, not only in ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, quads, whatever you want to call them, but even in our own personal vehicles. Stay on the roads and trails, honestly, because that's what they're designed for. But anyway, I appreciate you guys being able to come on the show with me today and talk about all these important safety items. And thank you for joining us on this edition of Safe and Sound, and I hope you'll join us for the next edition.